Did you guys know that the Middle East was originally a part of North Africa? Let's talk about it. So how did the Middle East get its name? The term Middle East may have originated in the 1850s in the British Indian Office. However, it became more widely known when American naval strategist Alfred Thayer used the term in 1902 to designate the area between Arabia and India. When was it officially separated and disconnected from Africa? The Suez Canal in 1858 was created by a French diplomat, de Lesseps, and the British for building the canal to separate Africa and the Middle East. It basically was a route between the Northern Atlantic and the Northern Indian Ocean via the Mediterranean Sea and the Red Sea. Geographically, though the Middle East is a transcontinental geopolitical territory stretching east and west of Asia, ideally the Middle East is generally considered to be a part of the larger region of Africa. And honestly, before the 1800s, everybody knew that Egypt was a part of Africa and was an African civilization, until the colonists went down into Egypt and said, no, our slaves couldn't have built this. A number of 18th century political and intellectual leaders began publicly to assert that Africans were naturally inferior and that they were indeed best suited for slavery. A few intellectuals revived an older image of all living things, the scala natura, a Latin scale of nature, or the great chain of being. Let's talk about the indigenous and the native people of the Middle East, biblically, historically, and scientifically. Let's get into this. Ham, in Hebrew according to the Table of Nations in the book of Genesis, was the second son of Noah and the father of Cush, Mizraim, and Punt in Canaan. Ham's descendants are interpreted by Josephus and others as having populated Africa and other parts of Asia. Zondervan's Compact Bible Dictionary describes Ham as the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood. In one of 8 persons to live through the flood, he became the progenitor of the dark races, not the Negroes, but the Egyptians, Ethiopians, Libyans, and Canaanites. Cush is Nubia, Mizraim is Egypt, Punt is Ethiopia, and Canaan is the land of Israel. While the Zondervan's Biblical Dictionary says that the sons of Ham are not the Negroes, that's because the Negroes are the son of Shem. So that's biblically describing how the Africans originally populated the Middle East. Remember, Ham has descendants. He is the progenitor of the dark races. And one of his descendants is one of the first kings of Babylon, Nimrod. And here it is on the family tree. So that's how Africans biblically inhabited the Middle East. So scientifically and historically, it was previously thought that Homo sapiens migrated out of Africa and into the Middle East, Europe, and Asia around 70,000, 60,000 BC. So that means for hundreds of thousands of years, Africans were pouring out of Africa into the Middle East and other parts of the world, including Europe. However, new evidence suggests that there were actually several distinct waves of migrations beginning around 100,000 BC, with each subsequent one occurring about 20,000 years apart. But back to Northern Africa, the Middle East. But yeah, there's many indigenous Afro-Arab tribes that populate the Middle East still to this day, but they're not shown by the media. Some of the regions that these tribes still inhabit is the United Emirates, Yemen, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Kuwait, Qatar, the Levant, Iraq, Syria, Palestine, and Jordan. And if you search them on Google, they are called the Bedouin tribe. There are almost over 20 tribes that still stay there to this day. I will go over their names, but they're pretty hard to pronounce. I ain't gonna cap. And still to this day, most Arabs have a sub-Saharan African component of 7%, similarly to North African contribution of 5%, in addition to a small Indian influence of 3% detected. And this is why it's important to do your own research, because watch how they word this. I actually got this from Google about the Levant. What is the Levant DNA? People from the Levant have DNA. The Levant is a mixture of DNA from Anatolia, Southern Arabia, prehistoric European DNA that cannot be identified by European region. It is different from recent European DNA that can be identified as to its origin. So, like I said, the original Europeans were from Africa of a darker hue, and most scientists and scholars already recreated some of the first bones that they found in Europe. And this is how his DNA said that he looked. This is called the Cheddar Man. Most of them were sharp and very, very dark skinned. And also, here is Australia. Look at their original people, the Aborigines. So what I'm really saying all this for is to get to telling you guys that the original Hebrews and the original people of Israel were of a darker hue. They were from Africa.